Hi, long time no see. It's been 2 months. Wow. Today's gonna be a video about what I read in May, what I read in June, and I'm gonna show you some of the recent books that I've bought, because I've bought a lot of books recently. Let's do a little recap, update, what's going on. I'm a little bit sad today, but that's okay. I've had a lot of really good days recently, which is amazing, which I love. So it's okay to have a sad day. I got a new tattoo yesterday, which I am in love with. I adore. May was a very slumpy month, reading-wise at least. I only read 2 books in May. It wasn't clicking for me. The 2 books I read in May, which I'll show you, I loved, but it just took me a long time, but that's destined to happen, that's okay, and I bounced back big time in June, because I read 9 books, I think. So let's just get right into it. I don't have to meander any longer. I hope everyone is doing amazing. Yeah, I started with Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I adore this cover. I love all the New Directions paper book editions of books. This was a gift from a co-worker of mine, which I think was really sweet, really thoughtful. We had talked about this book a little bit. So Siddhartha is another name for Buddha. This book follows a boy named Siddhartha, though he is not the Buddha, but it is his sort of quest towards enlightenment. There's a lot of knowledge and wisdom packed into this here book, and I think it was really interesting. I haven't read much of Eastern philosophy or Eastern religious texts. This isn't a religious text. I mean, the guy's name is Herman, for crying out loud. It touches on a lot of themes of Buddhism, from my understanding. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna keep the reviews shorter today because we have a lot of books to get through, but I gave this 4 stars. I'd recommend it. Next up, the only other book I read in May was Young Mungo. I mean, it's about 400 pages, but I still usually read more than that in a month. But anyways, Young Mungo, one of my favorite covers. I believe this photo is titled The Cock, parentheses, Kiss. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And I think it's a great cover for this book. It follows a boy named Mungo. He's a weird kid who is starting to explore masculinity, sexuality, family dynamics, and starting to understand his own family. It is brilliantly written. Douglas Stewart did an amazing job with this. It touches on some really difficult subjects. So if you are to read this, definitely check out the trigger warnings. Even though I was in a slump while reading this book, it also helped get me out of the slump, because I was just enamored by the characters in this book. They're so well developed, so well rounded, and my heart just swelled for Mungo, like again and again and again. So those are the only 2 books I read in May. Going into June, I went through a breakup, so of course I read all about love in a day. I've heard so much about this book and bell hooks. I've read Talking Back by bell hooks, which I'd recommend. I really enjoyed it. This book, I don't know, to be honest. Oh, also, sorry, I gave Young Mungo 5 stars. I loved this book. Anyways, back to bell hooks. It's obvious, and bell hooks acknowledges this and points it out, that this, all about love, is heavily inspired by and influenced by The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, and is meant to sort of build off of that. What gives me trouble about this is that bell hooks comes off as a writer as above you, talking down to you, as this enlightened figure who has all the answers, and that just can never be the case. She gives examples from her own life as a way of like justifying what she's saying. Like, she's saying, this is what you should do. See, it's what I did. And that doesn't sit right with me, especially when some of those examples aren't good. Maybe the book is showing its age. One of the examples, she's in this very liberal space with lots of college professors and academics, and they're talking about how they punish their children. And a lot of them are talking about physical punishments, which obviously horrible under in any context. Then she says, and I was the only one there that was like, that's not the way to do it. You can do timeouts. You can withhold preferred items, which, might I add, Belle, are also like punitive punishments. They're also like bad things to do, just like from the literature of child psychology. Like, those aren't good things. I don't know. I think it has a lot to give, and I think there's bits and pieces that you can take from it, but I think there's better places to go if you're looking to learn about love. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up, change of pace, I read Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men. Cormac McCarthy, I will talk about another of his books that I read later in the month, but this is amazing. This thing is so good. Such a gripping story. Such a beautiful take on the American crime novel. Where to begin? Llewellyn, what an incredible character. And what's his name? Anton Chigurh? Oh my god. That guy is scary. And you feel it. It is just... This is a masterpiece. I did watch the film after as well, and boy, don't you just love it when the book and the film are like as good as one another. I don't know, that's incredible. Yeah, I'd absolutely recommend this if you like crime, if you like thrillers. So good, so good. The writing, brilliant, as I'm coming to expect with Cormac McCarthy. Yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. It's really good. Next up, I read The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. I don't have it here with me. It was lent to me by a dear, dear friend of mine. And boy, oh boy, that thing was amazing. I finished it June 10th, so it's not super there in my mind right now, so apologies. But this is another one that interrogates love, and interrogates family, and the messy, sort of difficult intricacies that arise out of that, especially in and around queerness. It beautifully interrogates desire, identity, and language in a way that is super digestible. And I think it would be a great place to start for anyone looking to venture into nonfiction or into reading about queerness, because it's really, really great. It really hit me. It really resonated with me. I don't think I have any complaints at all. I gave it 5 stars. There was no hesitation in that rating. Next up, I read Diary of an Oxygen Thief by Anonymous. This book was the main character, insufferable, hated him, and for me, he wasn't like that unlikable narrator and unlikable main character that sometimes we empathize with, sometimes we come to understand or even enjoy or secretly root for. He just kind of sucked. And I've talked about unlikable main characters before on this channel, and how just because a character is unlikable doesn't mean the book is bad. Just because you disagree with a character's actions doesn't mean you have to not like the book. And this is an example of when I disagreed with the main character's actions, thought the character was bad, and also didn't like the book. There is a sequel to this, which I am not planning on reading. I found it at Value Village for cheap, so yeah, not for me. 2.5 stars. Next up, though, I read A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro. I got this from the library, so again, don't have a copy with me. I've heard a lot about her other novel, Elena Knows, so I immediately saw her name while perusing the stacks at my local regional library and took a chance on it and was blown away. It's a really, really fascinatingly told story about regret and about decisions and time and family as well as guilt and shame and fate and chance. It blew me away. It started a little slow for me to get into, to be honest, but towards the end I was flabbergasted, and it left me with one of my favorite lines, excerpts of the year for sure. Let me find it. So this is from the very end of the book. So if you're worried about spoilers, which if you're gonna read this, maybe you definitely should be. Okay, this is a big spoiler. Maybe this is happiness. Watching my son walk arm in arm with his wife, a few steps ahead, as I carry my granddaughter who pats my neck with her chubby hand. Maybe that's all happiness is, an instant inhabited, a random moment in which words are unnecessary because it would take too many of them to describe it. To accept the instant in its pure condensed form without allowing language and its obsession with narration to dilute the intensity. Time compressed in narration's failed attempts to expand it. Happiness like an image to be contemplated in silence. Why would she do that to me? That's messed up. Claudia, you're messed up. A little luck, easy 5 stars. Incredible book. Next up, I read A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. I am kind of all over the place with the books I've read this month. This is the first play I've ever read, so that was an interesting experience, sort of imagining it on the stage as I went through it. This is also the first of Tennessee Williams' works I've read. I do also have The Glass Menagerie, which I'll read at some point, I'm sure, as I've heard it's better than this one, from a couple people. I don't know how to feel about this one. I think it shows its age quite a bit. I think it is a little uncomfortable, and intentionally so, I'd be willing to bet. But also, like, I don't know, didn't sit too right with me. I read it pretty quickly, but yeah, there's nothing that stood out as great to me in it, to be honest. Maybe that's my adjusting to reading plays. Maybe that's just part of it and part of my preference towards it. But I gave it 3 stars. Next up, I read The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. This is from my understanding, seminal text in self-help and psychology, literature, and nonfiction. This was also recommended, and this copy was a gift from same coworker who recommended Siddhartha. So I was really excited to read this as it had been presented to me as a life-changing book in his life. And I can definitely see where that comes from. There is a lot of wisdom packed into these pages, in particular the first 2 sections, which are on discipline and love. The following 2 sections, the second half of the book on growth in religion and grace, I found meandered on a little bit, circled around concepts a bit too much, and could have been condensed pretty significantly, but take nothing away from, in particular, the love section, which I think if you want to read all about love by bell hooks, or you want to read about love, you don't have to read that. Just read section 2 of this book and you'll be good. As well, like I mentioned, went through breakup at the beginning of the month, and so this helped a lot as well in navigating that, like, post-breakup hullabaloo in reframing love, and for me, understanding that sometimes a breakup is the biggest act of love. Sometimes it's necessary, and as he defines love in a really practical way, which I enjoyed. And so in nurturing one another's growth and spiritual growth, sometimes you gotta do hard stuff. You have to make hard decisions, and sometimes that's for the best. And understanding that and reframing that as a positive is really beneficial, or was, at least for me. This book does show its age quite profusely. It was published in 1978, I believe. There's a really troubling slavery analogy that he employs at one point in the book. There's also some outdated psychiatry and psychology terminology throughout the book. And that's to be expected. He is a psychotherapist. But I did enjoy this a lot in parts, and gave it 3.5 stars. Next up, 2 more books left that I read. First up is Funny Story by Emily Henry. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I'm a big Emily head. I don't know, whatever. I love her books. People We Meet on Vacation, Beach Read, Book Lovers, Happy Place, and now Funny Story. This woman knows what she's doing. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she's good at it. And I love her for that. She stays in her lane in a way that's not repetitive, not self-absorbed. That's just like, wow, it's impressive, and we stan. I loved this book, had so much fun reading it, couldn't put it down. 4.5 stars. Last book of the month, also don't have a physical copy of because I just dropped it off at the library, Child of God by Cormac McCarthy. This book follows a really depraved and insidious person, and in contrast with Diary of an Oxygen Thief, it's presented in a way that's so refreshing for me. That's, here's these gruesome, depraved acts, these evil, devious things that this character is doing, and the writing itself isn't casting judgment on it. It's leaving it up to the reader to empathize, I don't know, to condemn, sure, and also the way Cormac McCarthy writes, dear Lord, it's incredible. The juxtaposition between how beautiful his prose is and how lyrical elements of this book are, with like the dialogue between the characters, and with, like I said, this beautiful lyrical prose with some of these depraved, villainous acts that our main character does, is just like blew me away. It's incredible, incredibly written. So I gave it 4 stars. Okay, y'all. That's all the books I read in these past 2 months. Now let me show you some of the books I bought. Now let me preface this. I've said this before, I think, but like, this isn't just like big book haul where I went and spent hundreds of dollars at Indigo. Like, Free Palestine, first of all. And also, yeah, this isn't that. I buy 95% of my books used. So the first chunk of these are going to be from Value Village, which are like, they're all $5. Second chunk of these are from my favorite bookstore, which I had a gift card to from Christmas still, Western Sky Books in Poco. Check it out if you haven't. And then I went book shopping with a friend of mine and her professor, went to some used bookshops and had a lot of fun. So yeah, let's start. Crime by Irvine Welsh. Also wrote Train Spotting, as well as Porno, Ecstasy, and The Acid House. So I now have 5 of his books. Haven't read any of them, but I think how much I enjoyed Douglas Stewart's Young Mungo, I think I'm gonna enjoy getting into those, as it's all kind of Scottish. Next, I purchased Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. I have read this before and reviewed it on my channel and love it, so couldn't pass up on having a copy myself. Then, Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. More like Jean-Paul Fart, the way I can't pronounce his name. Love this cover, was really excited to find this. It's also a New Directions paperback, like Siddhartha is, so shout out. We have Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. This cover is incredible. Again, Value Village, and very cool synopsis of it, so I was hooked and excited to read this at some point. Alice Munro, Lives of Girls and Women. This cover is gorgeous. Heard so much about Alice Munro. I have another of her story or essay collections, short story collections, I forget. But shout out Alice Munro, excited to read this. Now, these are books I bought today at Western Sky Books. We have Woman Hollering Creek and Other Stories by Sandra Cisneros. I've heard a lot about Sandra Cisneros. The House on Mango Street is another of her works, so this was $8. Could not pass up on it. We have Bluets by Maggie Nelson. Got so excited when I saw this. Of course, the author of Argonauts, which I loved, gave 5 stars, and I've heard such incredible things about this. So this is amazing. Next we have Antarctica by Claire Keegan. Claire Keegan is one of my favorite authors. Foster and Small Things Like These are 2 incredible stories. This is her longest. I believe this is a short story collection. I can't wait to read this. I love her writing so much. It was a insta buy. Then we have Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. This was $10. So yeah, these are books that I bought shopping with a friend and her professor like last week. First up we have Gender Fucking, The Pleasures and Politics of Living in a Gendered Body. This one is critical essays, erotica, memories, collection of stories written by Florence Ashley, and as you can see, I've started this and love it so far. So yeah, Awesome. Next I got Blues for Mr. Charlie by James Baldwin. Love, 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 love James Baldwin. How could I pass up? This was for a great price, and I haven't seen this before, so yeah. Next we got Nabokov's The Gift. Read Lolita recently, as you may be aware. Loved it. All of his work right now. It also matches perfectly my Ada or Ardor copy, so that's really cool too. Then I got The Passion According to G.H. by Clarice Lispector. Clarice Lispector is a name I've heard again and again and again and again. Agua Viva, A Breath of Life, The Foreign Legion, The Hour of the Star, Near to the Wild Heart. Like, I've heard a lot about her work. So I was so pumped to find this copy, especially. This is another New Directions paper book. Oh my gosh. They're eating it up. And the last book I'm going to talk about, Sluts, an anthology. Come on. This cover? Are you kidding me? So this is a collection of fiction and nonfiction, pro and con, philosophical and compulsive writing, exploring the eternally controversial word. Whether an insult or badge of honor, an identity or a state of mind, Sluts engages some of the hottest minds of the moment to riff on the subject, exploring the nature of desire and its cultural consequences, creating a collection bound to become a classic of sex writing. So pumped to read this. Also gonna lend it to my friend when I'm done. So look out for this in future videos. That's everything I read, everything I got. I said at the beginning of the video that I was sad today, and now I'm happy because I read about books. So that's awesome. Okay, bye guys.